Triple H just dropped a bombshell on WWE SmackDown, and the WWE Universe is in complete shock. What does this mean for Seth Rollins' future? In this video, we break down the huge announcement made by WWE CEO Triple H regarding Seth Rollins. Whether you're a fan of the visionary or simply want the latest WWE news, this is a must-watch. Don't miss the backstage details, reactions, and what this could mean heading into SummerSlam. What if I told you that the entire landscape of WWE changed in a matter of seconds? That the man known as the visionary, Seth Rollins, didn't even see it coming? That a single sentence from Triple H wasn't just a routine announcement, but a death knell echoing through the halls of SmackDown, shaking its very foundation? On a night that was supposed to be about hype, excitement, and the road to SummerSlam, WWE CEO Triple H Levesque stepped into the spotlight and delivered something no one in the locker room or the audience could have prepared for. Not a promo. Not a tease. A bombshell. One that could mark the end of an era, and possibly, the end of Seth Rollins as we know him. The show had started like any other: explosions, cheers, the electrifying roar of a sold-out crowd. SmackDown was alive. The camera panned across signs and superstars. But there was a strange energy in the air, something cold and unsettled, like a storm waiting to hit. And then, it happened. The lights dimmed. The entrance theme changed. And Triple H walked out, not in a suit and tie for PR, but in all black, no smile, no catchphrase. Just silence. A silence so sharp, it cut through the noise like glass. He didn't waste time. He didn't build it up with theatrics. He looked straight into the camera, his jaw clenched, and said 7 words that immediately changed everything: Seth Rollins will not compete again. And the world stopped, the fans gasped. Commentators were stunned into silence. Phones lit up across the arena. Seth Rollins? The man who carried WWE through the dark days of injury and transition? The man who stood in the center of the ring at WrestleMania just months ago, eyes blazing with fire and purpose? He's gone, Triple H went on. His voice was steady, but his eyes gave it away. There was pain behind them. Regret. Maybe even guilt. He explained that after months of pushing through pain, after refusing to let go of the title and the spotlight, Seth's body had finally given out. A devastating knee injury, made worse by months of concealed damage, had spiraled out of control. The MRI scans, the swelling, the tendon deterioration. It wasn't just an injury, it was a full-blown crisis. One that would require surgery. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now, and just like that, the road to SummerSlam had been rewritten. Seth Rollins would not be walking into the biggest party of the summer. He wouldn't be defending his title. He wouldn't be standing toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns, or Solo Sikoa, or anyone else. He would be in a hospital bed, facing the most uncertain chapter of his life. But why now? Why SmackDown? Why did Triple H choose this moment, this show, to drop the news? According to whispers from backstage, it wasn't just about timing. It was about control. Rumors had been swirling for weeks that Seth's condition was worsening. That he was hiding something. That Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, and even CM Punk had picked up on the limp, the grimace, the way Seth seemed to favor his left leg after every match. It was no longer speculation, it was truth. And it was time to face it. But what Triple H didn't say, what he couldn't say on air, was that there was more to this announcement than just medical facts. This was personal. This was about legacy. About consequences. About a man who pushed too far for too long and was now paying the price. Sources close to the locker room claim that Triple H had personally pleaded with Rollins weeks ago to take time off. To undergo surgery after Money in the Bank. Rollins refused. Not out of ego, but out of duty. Out of obsession. Because Seth Rollins didn't just see himself as a superstar, he saw himself as the spine of WWE. And spines don't bend. Until they break. Backstage, the fallout was immediate. Camera crews caught glimpses of Becky Lynch storming down the corridor, her face a mix of fury and heartbreak. She had reportedly found out just minutes before the announcement. And she wasn't pleased. Insiders say she had begged Seth to be honest, not just with fans, but with her. But Seth, ever the warrior, had sworn he could fight through it. That one more match wouldn't kill him. That SummerSlam would be his redemption arc. Instead, it may become the night the throne he fought so hard to keep is handed to someone else. CM Punk, who had been building toward a feud with Rollins, was spotted leaving the arena early. No comments. No statements. Just silence. Some say he was furious. Not at Triple H, not at the injury, but at the loss of the greatest storyline he'd been part of in years. Others say he was heartbroken. That despite their on-screen rivalry, Punk respected Rollins more than anyone else in the business. And he didn't want to see the war end this way. Not like this. And what about Roman Reigns? The tribal chief, long absent, had been rumored to make his own return at SummerSlam. With Seth now out of the picture, Roman's return narrative has been thrown into chaos. Does he reclaim the spotlight? Does he target a different rival? Or, does he reach out to an old brother, now broken, and offer solidarity in silence? The questions pile up like dominoes. Who will replace Seth at SummerSlam? Will there be a new tournament for his title? Is this the end of his current reign, or the beginning of a darker one behind the scenes? Is Triple H's announcement just the first layer of something deeper? Something political, because what no one is saying aloud. But what everyone is whispering is this: Triple H didn't look shocked. He looked burdened. Like a man who had known this was coming. Like a man who had made a decision behind closed doors. There are rumors now, rumblings that Seth's injury wasn't just a spontaneous collapse but part of a long-standing power struggle. That certain people backstage wanted him gone. That others, maybe even Paul Heyman, had been planting seeds of doubt in Triple H's ear. Could it be that Seth Rollins was forced to walk into the storm alone, while the company waited for him to fall? The locker room is rattled. Younger talent like Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes are reportedly shaken. Seth was their example. Their measuring stick. If a man like Rollins, respected, brilliant, fearless, can be sidelined this way, then what hope do they have in a system that never stops moving? Fans have flooded social media with hashtags like #ThankYouSeth and #RollinsStrong. The WWE Universe is in mourning. Not just because they might not see Rollins at SummerSlam, but because they're realizing just how much he gave. Every stomp. Every dive. Every promo that lit arenas on fire. It wasn't just performance. It was pain. Managed. Hidden. Endured, and now, it's erupted. But here's the part no one can prepare for: what if this isn't temporary? What if Triple H's announcement isn't about surgery and recovery, but a permanent shift in direction? There's a reason he said Seth Rollins will not compete again. Not for now. Not until he's healed. Just not again. Was it an error in wording? A cruel twist of phrase? Or is this truly the end of Seth Rollins' in-ring career? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: when Triple H stepped onto that SmackDown stage, he didn't just make an announcement. He closed a chapter. A chapter written in grit, passion, and pain. And the WWE will never be the same again. Let that sink in, because somewhere tonight, Seth Rollins is staring at a hospital ceiling. Not at the lights of an arena. Not at the gold he sacrificed for. But at the cold, sterile truth that even visionaries can break. And the WWE Universe is left asking one devastating question: what happens when the heart of the company stops beating? Somewhere beyond the cheers and pyro, beyond the lights and the ropes and the titles that glitter on screens, there is silence. A deafening, soul-crushing silence. That's where Seth Rollins finds himself now. Not in front of thousands. Not in a war of words with CM Punk. Not face-to-face with Paul Heyman, spitting defiance in a blood feud. But alone, recovering in a hospital wing, his knee tightly bound, the future foggy. Not just for SummerSlam. Not just for the title. But for everything, sources close to the medical team have confirmed what fans feared but Triple H refused to spell out in plain words: the ligament damage is not clean. The tear in Rollins' knee is complex, shattered in 3 places, compromising both the ACL and MCL. The diagnosis? 9 to 12 months, best case. But that's not the part that has WWE headquarters in Connecticut shivering. It's the additional findings: the degenerative cartilage, the hairline fractures in the femur, the years of accumulated punishment that can no longer be ignored. Seth Rollins isn't just out of SummerSlam. He's out of time backstage. It's chaos. Meetings behind closed doors. Writers frantically reworking storylines. Feuds that were supposed to peak in August now lie shattered at their feet. And looming above it all is Triple H's stone-faced silence. He hasn't spoken publicly since the announcement. No press release. No follow-up. Not even a backstage segment. But people who were in the production meeting afterwards said he looked hollow. Like he'd just signed away part of his soul, and some are asking, was this Triple H's plan all along? It's no secret that the relationship between Seth Rollins and WWE's new regime has been complicated. Respectful, yes. But complicated. Seth, known for his creativity, his ambition, and his refusal to let go of the reins, had clashed more than once with management. While others played it safe, Rollins pushed. Pushed for bigger moments, edgier angles, and more personal storylines. Pushed even when it hurt. Even when his knee screamed. Even when Paul Heyman, of all people, warned him to slow down. Heyman's role in this isn't small. He's been circling Rollins like a hawk for months. First manipulating Braun Breaker to target him. Then bringing in surprise opponents at every turn. And while Heyman continues to deny any involvement in Rollins' injury, or the fallout from it, sources backstage say it was Heyman who first approached Triple H with concerns about Seth's health. That Heyman had data. Footage. Conversations. Evidence that Seth was no longer physically fit to carry the company. If true, then Triple H didn't just react. He acted. Pulled the plug. Removed his top star from the battlefield before he could fall completely. And yet, that's not how it looked to fans. To them, it looked like abandonment. Like the company's warrior had been cast aside the moment he became too broken to wield the sword, and maybe that's why the locker room is so divided now. Some, like Sami Zayn, are heartbroken. Sami reportedly broke down in the trainer's room when he saw the footage of Seth's injury up close. He gave everything, Sami was overheard saying. He bled for this company. And they just cut the feed. Others, like Braun Breaker, are angry. Braun, once positioned to be Seth's SummerSlam opponent, was seen leaving the arena before the main event. I didn't want it this way, he told a staffer, shaking his head. But perhaps the most chilling response came from Roman Reigns. The tribal chief has been silent for months. Absent from Raw, SmackDown, press conferences. But insiders claim that when he heard the news about Rollins, he made one call. To Paul Heyman. And what he said was simple: I warned you. You didn't listen. Now we all pay. What that means, no one knows. What we do know is that the dominoes are already falling. Rollins' titles have been vacated. His feud with CM Punk has been shelved. And a new era is already being whispered into existence. One that may be led not by Rollins, but by those who watched him fall. And still, something feels unfinished, because this wasn't the kind of announcement that ends a chapter. This was the kind that begins a war. Social media is ablaze. Fans demanding answers. Hashtags trending globally, hashtag justice for Seth, hashtag bring back the visionary, and hashtag Triple H turned. Some fans believe Rollins was betrayed. That someone leaked his medical reports to force Triple H's hand. Others believe Seth knew that his body was done, and orchestrated the exit on his own terms. That the announcement was his final statement. A mic drop, not with words, but with absence. Then there are the rumors that a letter was sent. That hours before SmackDown went live, Triple H received a private note from Seth Rollins. One that read only, "Don't protect me. Tell them the truth." No one can confirm this. But those who know Rollins say it sounds like him. Proud. Defiant. Honest, and maybe that's the most tragic part of this saga. That a man who fought through fire now fades in silence, but silence never lasts long in WWE. Already, there are signs. A medical crew seen leaving a closed-door meeting with Triple H. A production assistant overheard saying, "He's not done." Not like that. Becky Lynch, silent on social media, posted a cryptic black square. No caption. Just black. And last night, outside the hospital, a fan caught a blurry image of Rollins sitting by a window, staring out at the city. No smile. No wave. Just stillness. What is he thinking? Regret? Rage? Is he planning a return, or an escape? Because the truth is, Seth Rollins has never been the kind of man to end his story in a hospital bed. He's a warrior. A visionary. A man who once said, "Burn it down," not as a threat, but as a promise. So maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end. Maybe it's the spark before the fire, because while Triple H might have said Seth Rollins won't compete again, what if he's wrong? What if Seth Rollins rises not to reclaim a title, but to tear down the empire that turned its back on him? The WWE Universe is watching. Waiting. Praying, because if there's one thing they know, it's this: the story's not over, not until he says so. Somewhere inside WWE headquarters, a storm is brewing. Not the kind made of PR spin or rewritten main event segments, but something deeper, more primal. Because in the wake of Triple H's announcement, something vital has been broken. Not just in Seth Rollins' body, but in the company's soul. Staffers describe the atmosphere as tense. Triple H is no longer walking the halls with confidence. Some say he hasn't been seen at all since the press began demanding clarity. Others claim he's preparing for another announcement, one that could reset the entire course of WWE's championship picture. There's talk of an emergency summit being called at Stamford, bringing together writers, medical consultants, and top talent to decide what happens next. But it's not the corporate scramble that people are paying attention to. It's the silence from Seth. Not a word. Not a post. No video. No reassurance. Just silence, and that silence is deafening, because Seth Rollins isn't just any superstar. He's the architect. The man who rebuilt himself every time WWE asked more of him. The man who held the company up during Roman's absence, during Cody's rise, during Punk's return. He carried the weight with a grin on his face and a flame in his soul. But now he's gone dark. Becky Lynch has kept close to his side. Friends say she hasn't left the hospital since the announcement. That she's acting as both protector and gatekeeper. She's the only one who truly knows what Seth is feeling. What he's planning. But even she is starting to show the cracks. Last night, at an untelevised live event in Florida, Becky stepped into the ring. Not as the man. Not as a champion. But as a wife. And what she said stunned everyone. He gave you everything. His body. His future. And this company threw him away like he was replaceable. So let me make one thing very clear. He's not done. And when he comes back, it won't be to entertain you. It'll be to burn this place to the ground. The crowd erupted. But the message wasn't for them. It was for Triple H. For Heyman. For everyone who thinks Seth Rollins is finished. And in that moment, it became clear, this isn't a retirement. It's a warning, because behind the scenes, those close to Seth say he's changed. That in the days since the announcement, something has shifted in him. That the pain is still there, yes, but it's no longer the kind that crushes. It's the kind that fuels. The kind that sharpens into purpose. He started training again. Upper body only. Weightless exercises. Mental reps, visualization. The doctors call it obsession. Seth calls it preparation. His body may be broken, but his mind is clearer than it's ever been, and what he's thinking about is war, because Seth Rollins doesn't want the title back. He doesn't want to pick up where he left off. He wants revenge. On the system that overworked him. On the people who doubted him. And above all, on Paul Heyman. Yes, Heyman again, because while the official WWE storyline has moved on, championships realigned, rivalries reshuffled, Rollins hasn't. He knows that Heyman played a part in what happened. That Heyman whispered just the right words in just the right ears. That he planted the seed of doubt that got Seth pulled from the main event spotlight, and now, with Rollins out, Heyman's influence is spreading. Braun Breaker is rising. Jacob Fatu is being groomed. The bloodline, fractured, maybe, but still breathing. Rollins sees it. And it eats at him. He's not the only one. Cody Rhodes, the man who once warred with Rollins, has reportedly reached out. According to backstage leaks, Cody sent a private message to Seth just days after the SmackDown announcement. It said, "This isn't how it ends. You and me, we finish it together." Whether Seth replied remains unknown. But the message lingers. Because even rivals know that without Rollins, something vital is missing in WWE. The fans feel it too. At Monday's Raw, chants of Seth freakin' Rollins rang out in every match. Signs read, "Long live the visionary." A child in the front row wore a hospital wristband in solidarity. These aren't just fans. They're disciples mourning their prophet. And still, WWE hasn't given them answers. Triple H remains in the shadows. Paul Heyman hasn't addressed the situation. And Roman Reigns? Still silent. Watching. Calculating. But something changed last night. A leak, a photo.an image snapped by a nurse at the hospital, later deleted, showing Seth Rollins standing. No crutches. No cast. Just a brace. And in his eyes, something unholy. It spread across the internet like wildfire, and with it, a single question surged to the top of trending lists. Is Seth Rollins coming back for revenge? It's not just speculation now. It's prophecy. Because if you know Seth Rollins, you know one thing: he doesn't believe in endings. Only rebirths. And when he returns, and he will return, it won't be as the visionary. It won't be as the architect. It will be as something far more dangerous. The man who has nothing left to lose. The man who has seen the truth behind the machine. The man who once loved this company so much, he broke himself to keep it standing, and now? He's going to set fire to it.so while Triple H rewrites the SummerSlam card, while Heyman pulls the strings backstage, while new champions are crowned and storylines are patched up. There's a man recovering in silence. A man with unfinished business, and when the lights go out, when the music hits, when the crowd hears that voice again, burn it down. It won't just be an entrance themed, it will be a reckoning, and WWE, it won't be ready. Not for him, not for what's coming. Not for Seth Rollins, reborn. But if you really listen, if you listen past the applause, the marketing, the hollow reassurances, you'll hear something else. Beneath the surface of WWE's grand machine, something is cracking, because this isn't just about an injured superstar. This is about betrayal masked as concern. About an empire choosing self-preservation over loyalty. About a man who gave more than anyone, being discarded the moment he became inconvenient. That's not a storyline. That's reality, and that reality is beginning to unravel. Insiders now suggest that there was more to Seth Rollins' fall than just physical collapse. That a private meeting took place days before SmackDown, one where Rollins demanded to compete at SummerSlam, regardless of his condition. Triple H reportedly refused. Not because the doctors said he couldn't, but because others, behind the curtain, feared what a broken Seth Rollins might expose. Fear's not about risk, but about power. Control. The way WWE shields its narratives from truth, and in that moment, when Seth stood up and said, "Let me go out on my terms," and Triple H said no. The damage was done. This is the man who once unified the WWE Universe with nothing more than a scream. Who fought Cody in 3 brutal matches with torn muscles and shattered pride. The man who made Kevin Owens relevant again, made Riddle matter, made the IC title mean something when no one else did. And now? Now he's treated like a liability. But even if Seth won't speak publicly, He's already begun to fight back. At a rehab facility in Los Angeles, a staff member leaked a chilling note found in the weight room. Just 3 words, scribbled on a scrap of paper and taped to the mirror: "It's not over." He's training in private, they say. Building himself in silence. Not for a comeback match, but for a confrontation, and it might come sooner than anyone expects, because there are whispers of SummerSlam being hijacked. Not by fans. Not by storylines. But by Seth himself. A surprise return, not to reclaim gold, but to confront power. To walk down that aisle with a knee brace and a microphone, and speak the words WWE never wanted aired. What happens when the golden boy becomes the ghost? When the company's heartbeat turns into its conscience, what happens when the visionary decides to speak? Triple H is preparing. Security has been doubled for the SummerSlam venue. Rumors swirl that if Rollins enters the arena unannounced, he will be removed. But some say he already has allies. Superstars tired of being managed. Tired of pretending. Men and women who see what happened to Seth, and know they could be next. And somewhere deep in the walls of Stamford, someone is starting to worry, because this isn't just a superstar's return, this is a mutiny, the new faction? The speculation is rampant. Cody Rhodes. Kevin Owens. Ricochet. Becky Lynch herself. Names once associated with titles, now associated with rebellion. They're not calling themselves anything yet, but online, fans are calling them the fallout. Because what's coming is exactly that, the fallout of a company that used up its greatest asset and tried to bury the ashes. But Rollins isn't ashes. He's the match, and SummerSlam, that might just be the fire. So watch the entrances. Count the lights. Read the silence between promos. Because if Seth Rollins walks into that building, if his music hits when no one expects it, he won't come for cheers. He'll come for truth, and the moment he does, no title, no authority, no Triple H statement will be able to stop what follows. A reckoning. A revolution. A man returned, not to perform, but to expose. And that's the most terrifying thing of all, because in WWE, truth is the one thing they can't script. SummerSlam, the arena is packed to the rafters. Fans from every corner of the globe have flown in. The lights blaze. The commentators are in full voice. The stage is set for one of the biggest nights in WWE history, and yet, something feels off. There's an electricity in the air. Not just excitement. Not just anticipation. Something else. Something dangerous. Production crews whisper in hushed tones. Security is tighter than ever. No one will say why. But everyone knows. Everyone is waiting, and then it happens just before the co-main event. The lights dim. But it's not part of the scheduled run sheet. There's confusion in the production truck. A flurry of whispers over headsets. Then, total blackness. A single spotlight, and from the speakers, slow at first, distorted, almost broken, 3 words crackle through: "Burn it down." The crowd explodes. There's no music. No pyro. No official announcement, but everyone knows Seth Rollins walks out, not dancing, not laughing, not adorned in glittering gold or outlandish attire. He's in black. His knee brace visible. No jacket. No ego. Just war in his eyes. He walks slowly down the ramp. No Titantron. No lights. Just that spotlight following him like a ghost. Fans are screaming. Crying. Reaching over the barricade. But Rollins doesn't look at them. He's looking at one man. Triple H sitting beside commentary, headset in hand, trying not to show it, but his face drains of color the moment Seth locks eyes with him. The arena falls quiet. Dead quiet. Seth walks to ringside, grabs a mic, and then, for the first time in what feels like forever, he speaks. Not as the visionary, not as the architect. Not even as Seth freakin' Rollins, but as a man betrayed. "Do you think I'd let you erase me?" His voice echoes through the arena. Triple H slowly rises, eyes narrowing. "You made the announcement. You cut the feed. You stripped the title. And for weeks, you sat back and watched the company move on, like I never mattered. Triple H steps forward, mouthing something, off mic, inaudible, but Seth keeps talking. I begged you. I begged you to let me finish on my terms. And instead, you fed me to the wolves. The crowd is chanting now. Welcome back. Welcome back. Seth holds up a hand. Silencing them. You thought you could silence me. You thought a press statement would bury my legacy. But you forgot who I am. I don't need titles. I don't need storylines.